Could be as high as 8 inches. That's going to vary by different parts of the city. Bronx is expected to get more than other parts of the city because the storm moved to the north and west compared to the original projection. We do hope that we're nearing the end of the most intense precipitation in the next hour or so, but we expect some snow, some sleet, freezing rain, etc. throughout the afternoon, continued high wind conditions throughout the afternoon, and then temperatures are going to go down into the low 20s tonight. So you're going to see a lot of refreezing, and that means the conditions on the roads and sidewalks are going to be very dangerous as we get into the late afternoon, early evening hours. Everything starts to freeze up. For all of these reasons, we are continuing our state of emergency here in New York City until midnight tonight. So the state of emergency remains in effect till midnight. The message to all New Yorkers is stay off the roads, stay off the sidewalks to the maximum extent possible. Make sure you're safe, but also help us to clear the streets and prepare for tomorrow. I want to thank all New Yorkers who stayed in today or chose mass transit, because as I went around, I saw that the sanitation department was able to do their job. And I talked to sanitation workers who were very appreciative that their fellow New Yorkers to stay off the street so they could get out there and do everything they had to do. We have to continue that throughout this day and into the evening up till midnight so we can really be ready for tomorrow. I want to thank all of the leaders of different agencies who are here with us. You're going to hear from Commissioner Garcia of Sanitation, Commissioner Esposito of Emergency Management in a moment. I want to thank also Commissioner Trottenberg, Transportation, Commissioner Banks, Social Services, Commissioner Silver of Parks, both First Deputy Commissioner Turner and Chief of Department Leonard of the Fire Department, and Chief of Patrol Monahan from NYPD, our General Manager of NYCHA, Michael Kelly, and our Senior Director for Resiliency, Dan Zarilli. Thanks to all of them. Now, what we saw here is very different than what was projected even as of late yesterday, and this is the lesson we keep learning. The National Weather Service does everything they know how to do. Mother Nature still makes its own decisions. So what we got was a storm where the numbers that were projected occurred to the north and west of us. Not here, thank God, so we were spared some of the worst of it. But as I said, still a lot to play out and very good reason to stay in so we can prepare for tomorrow. The weather advisory, National Weather Service winter weather advisory goes until 8 p.m. tonight. Road conditions obviously continue to be concerned throughout the day. The wind gusts as well. We expect wind gusts still as high as 50 miles an hour. That's one part of the projection that has not changed, and that is important to drivers and pedestrians, to everyone, to recognize the dangers associated with those wind gusts. Sanitation Department on 12-hour split shifts, 2,400 workers per shift. Again, want to express my gratitude to our sanitation workers for extraordinary work as they've fought this storm. 87% of all New York City streets have been salted. As of the last report we got, 96% have been plowed at least once. 2,269 spreaders and plows out since midnight. Department of Transportation also assisting in that effort with their plows and personnel. We thank them. So, look, keep cautioning that there's going to be times when you will not see the blacktop on the road because there's still a lot of work to do. But the more people stay off the streets, the faster that work will go. Coastal areas, we want to continue to alert people to the danger of flooding. The coastal forecast is for the water to be about 3 feet higher than normal. We want people to be very alert, and obviously if you see a flooding condition, do not try and drive through it. That can be dangerous. As for schools, remembering today, a reminder to all New Yorkers, in addition to schools themselves, all after-school programs, adult ed programs, PSAL programs canceled today. But I'm also announcing that school will be open tomorrow. This situation now is under control, and we are certain that we'll be in a position to open schools effectively tomorrow. Everyone, I think, has a sense of the MTA. Outdoor subway service is down, but in underground subway service is up. Buses, saw a lot of buses running pretty well today. So there's reduced service, but it is moving pretty well in a lot of parts of the city. Reminder again on alternate side, canceled both today and tomorrow all over the city, so another good reason to leave your car where it is. And just constantly reminding anyone without heat and hot water, call 311. Reminder again to check on your neighbors, check on particularly seniors and folks with any kind of health condition that might need extra help. And we continue all of our outreach efforts around the city, including for anyone who's on the street and needs help. A few words in Spanish. Aunque no está nevando tanto como estábamos esperando, todavía es una tormenta peligrosa. Seguimos dando todos los pasos necesarios para mantener a los neoyorquinos seguros. Recuerden usar el transporte público si tienen que salir a la calle. Cuídense y cuiden a sus vecinos. With that, it's my honor to introduce our Emergency Management Commissioner, Joe Esposito.
Thank you, Mayor. Our Emergency Operations Center remains activated. We have dozens of city, state, and federal and private sector partners upstairs coordinating the response to the storm. That'll remain open the rest of today. We may start knocking it out a little bit later on tonight, but for the most of today, until the storm is gone, the center will stay open. We've had no major roadway issues. I think that's in large part, as the Mayor said, everybody stayed off the road. We've had 4 tows in total, so we want to thank everybody. And again, a little plug for Sanitation. They're going to have to re-sand the entire city on the 4 to 12 tonight, so stay off the roads tonight too, please. That's why the ban is still, or the advisory is still in effect. A recession coastal flooding, as the Mayor said, Staten Island, parts of Brooklyn, Queens, and Manhattan North. But the tide is over, except for a part of northern Queens where it goes in until 1 o'clock, but we haven't had any major issues with that. The strong winds, no widespread reports of power outages. We have 1 power outage right now in Staten Island, about 675 customers, overhead lines, Great Kills area. Con Ed says we'll be back within an hour or 2. Heaviest wintry mix and snow is expected till 1 o'clock, as the Mayor said. But again, stay off the roads. We want to resalt everything. And participation should end by 5 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now our Sanitation Commissioner, Catherine Garcia.
Yes, I'd like to start with thanking both the public for staying off the roads and the employees who have been hard at work. The spreaders started operating a little bit after midnight, and they were joined by the plows that had been pre-deployed around 3:30, depending on where you were in the city, and we got to those depths. As the Mayor said, we had basically done a plow across all of the city, but even since 7 a.m., since we're needing to resalt everything, we have almost 70% of the city resalted since 7 a.m. That's going to have to continue because every sheet of ice needs to be treated over again. As he said, ASP is canceled. Our focus will be on managing the icy roads on the overnight and then very much focusing on schools, bike paths, and other pedestrian infrastructure. We are asking for snow laborers to assist tomorrow, and so if you've already registered, you should come into the district that you applied at. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. All right. We welcome your questions. Yes.
Mayor, and the Commissioner may be better to answer this, but my question is, the snow coupled with the sleet, does the uniqueness, the difference in this kind of storm, does it make it more difficult in taking care of it over the next 24 hours? And also, Mayor, I wanted to ask you a second question, and I know hindsight's 20/20, but knowing what you know now, and it's not as bad as it is, do you wish that you hadn't canceled school?
No, I'm totally at peace, Dave. Look, we're not the weather experts. I just want to say it's very simple. The National Weather Service is the best we got. Their projections well into yesterday evening still had the most likely amount of snow, 16 to 20 inches. Unquestionably, with that combined with the expected high point of the precipitation being 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., to me it was a real straightforward decision. But we've seen this several times where the projection, again, is accurate, but the geography changes. You know, in this case, the storm moved, and that kind of figure is occurring to our north in places like Westchester and Rockland. So, no, you got to make a decision with the facts you have. I'm very comfortable this was the right decision.
And also, I'd also like to reiterate that National Weather Service actually, even at their 4 a.m. model run, had double-digit forecast of snow for the city of New York still. It really didn't change until after school would have started. In addition to that, it is a very different storm to fight because you're not pushing snow as much as you are actually having to really try and get it to melt. And the icy conditions can let New Yorkers think that it's not going to be so bad out, that they can actually drive around, but that would be misleading because it's very, very slippery up there.
Yeah, Grace.
Given how slippery it is and icy conditions, you said schools will be open tomorrow. Are you concerned about the potential for very icy roads in the early morning hours when people are trying to get to school? How can you be confident that it will be safe tomorrow morning?
I am confident that if people continue as they have, and New Yorkers have done a great job respecting a state of emergency and staying off the roads, if they continue to do that up till midnight, that sanitation will be able to do its work, and obviously they'll continue all through the early morning hours, and we'll be in good shape. It doesn't mean there won't be some slippery roads. It doesn't mean there won't be some slippery sidewalks. But look, our obligation when we can get school up and running is to do so. Our job is to do everything we know how to do to make sure things are safe, and I'm convinced sanitation will be able to do that. Yeah.
Mayor, can you give us an update on what's happening with homeless New Yorkers? Has there been an effort to get them off the streets? Obviously not as bad as we expected, but
yes,
bad conditions.
Yeah, that effort always goes into effect, that Code Blue initiative, when it is 32 degrees or below. 60 people came in between last night and early morning hours today. 3 of them involuntarily, the others all voluntarily. So yeah, the conditions were not as bad, particularly last night before it all started, but a number of people were contacted and did come in. Yeah.
Just to follow
Could you turn down your sweater before you ask your question, please?
It seemed like the right day to wear it.
Yeah.
Just want to follow up on that. Are you specifically targeting, we've heard reports of homeless people in the subways riding, I guess, to stay warm. Are you targeting those people as well? And also want to see what you think of the governor's decision on the Metro North and above-ground subway. Do you agree with that call?
Look, again, based on the information that was available yesterday when the decision had to be made, I think it was the right call on the above-ground subways, because the challenge always is if the subways stay out too long under the wrong conditions, those trains can get stuck out on the overground tracks, and that's not good for anyone. So based on what the state knew at the time, I think it was the right decision. I can't comment on the Metro North because that's not my purview, but from what I can tell of what's going on north of us, it makes sense. Yeah, the outreach to the homeless occurs everywhere, all the time. So let's clarify. Code Blue, when we have a Code Blue situation, 32 degrees or below, our home stat workers working with NYPD, Fire Department, EMS, everyone's out looking for anyone who need to come in, either voluntarily or involuntarily. But our ongoing outreach effort, Homestat, which has succeeded in getting hundreds of people to come in off the street and stay off the street, that goes on all the time anyway. So if someone's in the subway, they may not be in danger that they would be outdoors in 30-degree weather, but we still want to get them out of the subway and to some appropriate kind of shelter. So that outreach effort will continue. And I want to remind everyone, if you see folks who are homeless, call 311, report it so we can get the outreach workers right to them. Yes. Yeah.
2 questions. One was some folks at WNYC noticed a lot of NYPD cars driving around, and we wanted to know what they were looking for this morning. And the second was, to what extent does the city evaluate the erosion from these types of storms and take that into account with the cleanup costs?
Okay. On the first one, I'll turn to Chief Monahan because I'm not familiar with that. On the second question, when you're saying the erosion, you mean the use of salt and the impact of salt?
Beach erosion.
Oh, beach erosion. I did not hear that. Okay, beach erosion. I don't know. Are you our beach erosion expert, Mitch Silver?
We have 2, but in terms of all of the coastline, we got staff to report back, particularly in the Rockaways areas that we know are vulnerable in Staten Island. And other than some trap bags having a little bit of water above them, we haven't seen any significant beach erosion.
Okay, Chief.
We have 1,500 four-wheel drive vehicles driving around, and we're just surveying every sector of the East City to make sure there's no one stranded in the snow. So there's nothing special going on.
Okay, David.
everybody obviously likes a day off, but are you concerned that, with the snow coming in lower than it was and this decision to close the schools so early yesterday, that we're lowering the bar for when the city essentially shuts down? I mean, businesses are closed. Is the spillover effect of closing the schools?
No. I'll tell you why. First of all, we're very aware, we're constantly aware of our school calendar. And we had enough redundancy in our school calendar to allow for it. It's obviously, according to the official calendar, next week it's supposed to be spring. Although, in the age of global warming, I don't know what season's what anymore. But I think it is, I'm knocking wood, everyone, I think it would not be an unfair assumption to say this would be our last major winter storm. So we were cognizant of that. When you looked at those projections yesterday, and as Commissioner Garcia said, even into the early morning hours today, there was no choice, in my opinion, that we had to close school for safety reasons and also to keep people off the street to help sanitation's efforts. But I think the standard is still very high. I think it is an exceptional set of circumstances that cause us to close school. We don't do it very often under any circumstance. So I'm comfortable it's the right decision. Marcia.
I wonder, given the fact that the snow is about to stop in the next hour or two, do you think the MTA should resume normal service, the above-ground subways, normal bus service, etc.?
I think on bus service it's different from the subways, in my opinion. The commissioner obviously will have strong views on this too. Job one is to get the streets clear for safety purposes so our emergency vehicles can move around, so we can maximize the ability of people when we take off the state of emergency to get around safely, so tomorrow can be as normal as possible. So if you start putting a lot of buses and other vehicles out there, it's going to make sanitation's work harder. So that would be my caution. The decision belongs to the MTA, obviously. The subways, as a non-expert, and maybe Commissioner Trottenberg has a view because she's on the MTA board. From my point of view, I'd love to see those get up and running as quickly as possible. But I also want to caution, I don't know what the weather has done to their outdoor facilities. Do you have a sense of that, Commissioner? We're going to give you some height. There you go.
I always need some height. Look, I know the MTA, they don't...
All right, let's end things on our Marsha Kramer's question, and of course we'll have more on that later on today.
And we continue our special snow coverage after the break here.